to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor. He has multifarious tasks in respect of the institution as the head of the institution. He left his important work over there to, speak something in respect of our respective seminar. And I also, heartily thank our respective, guests who have spared their, invaluable time in terms of deliberating the respective, arguments in the context of independence and efficiency of regulators. Now, coming down to my topic, as I mentioned, that whether the sectoral regulators they are independent or whether they are efficient, we can actually judge in the context of taking the sectors one by one. So I have taken up one of the sectors, that is the airline sector. Now, before I go into the introduction relating to airlines, I'll just mention one basic factor is that there had been a sea change in the context of how the demand relating to airlines had changed over the period of years. Meaning that in 1930s or 40s, when India didn't gain independence, at that point of time, airlines used to be considered to be a luxury. It used to be considered that those who are very moneyed men, they could only afford to get into the airlines. And as our Honorable Vice Chancellor had said, that he had actually given lectures all over the world, different parts of the world. At that time there used to be only one state player, and that used to be Air India for international travel as such. Now in those days the question was the level of competition on the part of the state player used to be almost nil. I mean, even if you liked, you had to take up Air India. If you didn't like, then you had to go in respect of other international flights at that point of time, whether British Airways, whether KLM, whether Lufthansa, whether the other international players. Now, early 1990s, came up this question of liberalization, and the question came up was in the context of airlines being a strategic industry. In that industry also, we required a number of players in the market. It's like you as a consumer at every point of time, you can get the best possible service or the best possible product only at a time when there are a number of players, so that you can choose X is a better player, so you are choosing X. So today there is very strong competition in the context of this airlines sector. It's not only one Air India, it's a question of Go Air, it's a question of Indigo, it's a question of SpiceJet in the domestic airline market. And not only that, as Indian airlines market had become a very viable market, some of the international players, they have also started fighting out in the context of the competition in the Indian market. One example I can tell you is a carrier from Malaysia called Air Asia. Now Air Asia at one point of time used to only fly across a number of countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, and it used to get connected with India. Presently they have created a new respective plan where a number of their carriers are only going to fly within different parts of India itself. So, as far as the Indian market is concerned, it's a very viable market. India being the second most populated country all across the world. So, airlines today is not a question of any luxury, it's a question of a necessity. Tomorrow, if you have a respective, a seminar or a conference in any part of Kanyakumari or any part of Kerala, if the distance is so huge, a train cannot take you in one respective day. So, it only has to be a respective flight. So, it's a choice. Here the question is not in terms of a moneyed man and a non-moneyed man. You have to basically use up that respective flight for that particular purpose. Think of another situation where a person is suffering from a respective disease. The person is so sick that the person has to be admitted in a respective place in Vellore or Nellore or Chennai or in another place where that particular operation is going to take place. You again don't have a choice. None of the other respective roadways or railways can take you to that particular place. It has to be a flight. So as far as the necessity related to flight, it's a real truth that today flight is not a question of any luxury, it's a question of a necessity. Now coming down to the existing position relating to the Airport Economic Regulatory Authority, I will explain gradually across the different slides concerned. Next. Now, here it has been mentioned that airport as an infrastructure facility comprises of activities like air transportation, like air traffic control, like aircraft maintenance, then passenger services and amenities, and cargo services. Like we know for ourselves that all our respective couriers all across the country, whenever you are sending parcels and other things, it's the different respective companies who are hiring flights, whereby the parcels are reaching those places at the slowest possible the respective period that is expected. So along with passenger services, cargo services are the other respective area where airlines basically contributes. Now there are two things in respect of each respective sector. One includes the law, that is the act. The other includes the policy. Now the policy basically of the country is the actual objective which the country actually wants to achieve in that particular area. So going by the Indian Airlines policy, the policy has actually identified a number of areas where Indian airport infrastructure requires a sea change. That includes additional airports in India need to be declared to be international, including Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Guwahati, Bengaluru, Amritsar, etc. Those who basically had faced international conferences and workshops and lectures, they know for themselves that in India, the British left us in 1947. This is 2018. Within last 70 years also, still India had not got decentralized. All these decentralization things are only in name. Reasons are that when you look into connectivity, you are taking up international flights. Majority of them are all designated with respect to only 4 airports. There is Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, and these days just because Chennai had been outweighed by Bengaluru, it's Bengaluru Greenfield Airport which has connectivity. Not only that, those who are going internationally for different academic purposes concerned, moot court competitions concerned, their immigration work, all of them are also being done by these respective cities. Because I myself, I can give my experience. I worked in National Law University, Jodhpur. When I had international requirements concerned, my immigration, I used to get it done by going down to New Delhi, because New Delhi was closer from that particular place, and that place itself was another 800 to 900 kilometers away from that respective city. So my requirement, what I want to mean is the airlines policy, the airport policy, they actually did highlight that India doesn't only live with respect to Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai and Bengaluru. India lives in Ahmedabad, India lives in Allahabad, India lives in Bhilai, India lives in some part of Kochi and Thiruvananthapuram. So question is, when we are developing international airports, one of the broad policies is that develop a number of international airports that can actually really bring revenue and also reduce or ease out the pressure of people who are actually boarding from that particular place concerned. A person can be a resident of another one single part of Arunachal Pradesh or a single part of Meghalaya. That person won't have it a very easy task in terms of going down to New Delhi, thereafter getting all those immigration done, thereafter getting into the respective flight and then going to the particular destination where the person is supposed to go. So here it's mentioned that additional airports in India, they are supposed to be declared to be international, including Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Guwahati, Bengaluru, Amritsar. I have given only few examples concerned. The national policy had mentioned even more. Second is, there is a lot of congestion in the international airports at Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata and Mumbai. The congestion basically matters a lot, because the way we actually figure out the different types of traffic parking in the roadways is like every place we go over there is a kind of a parking place. You are allowed to keep your particular vehicle in this particular part. Same is the question in respect of airlines. If you look into the Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose International Airport in Kolkata, you will find that space is being allotted for this number of carriers of Indigo, this number of carriers of SpiceJet, this number of carriers of Jet Airways, Jet Light, Jet Connect concerned, and they have to actually satisfy the Airport Economic Regulatory Authority in terms of having more number of carriers the same respective period of time. So question is, obviously it's a real case that Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, these respective airports are really overloaded. So there is a requirement in terms of decentralization of the routes in terms of the airlines companies who are flying over there. The other question is, at many airports, passenger amenities need to be upgraded. Now, this passenger amenities being upgraded is also a requirement in the context of the infrastructure, the resources that the particular place have. I will give one example. I had a work to do, and I went down to Andaman and Nicobar Islands, a few years back. I found that the Veer Savarkar Airport at Port Blair, that airport is the airport where the air conditioners don't work. In the summer months, it's really, it's uncomfortable. But when I inquired in the context of what is the basic reasoning relating to that, they basically say that as the location is an island location, like as you know for yourself, Port Blair is surrounded by the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean from three sides. They basically, the amount of the fuel that they actually have in that particular place is not sufficient in terms of maintaining the air conditioners to indefinite period of time. That is the basic reasoning. Other than that, as far as other amenities are concerned, it's a good airport. The Bagdogra airport, they basically spend a lot in terms of security issues. One of the reasons is that there is a place very close to it called Duars. Everybody basically know, and it had come from the Bengali word duar, meaning the door. We call it in Bengali. So question is, it's the door or the window from where you can at least feel 5 to 6 country borders, all sharing their borders with India, including Tibet, including China, including Bhutan, including Nepal. So additional security arrangements are there, which they are basically spending in terms of the Bagdogra airport there, because Siliguri and Darjeeling, they themselves don't have any airport. Now, here's the question related to the policy. And as I mentioned, the policy is the objective which the state wants to achieve. Coming down to the next question in terms of the act. The ERA Act, or the Airport Economic Regulatory Authority Act 2008, that was created as an independent first act to create a regulator to oversee the infrastructure of the different airports in India. So this act, the story relating to the regulator acting in India is only for the last 9 to 10 years. And one important point over here is that India is not the only country in the world who have actually separated or designated the different sectors having individual regulators. It's the same practice which is going on in England. It's the same practice which is going on in majority of the European countries and a number of American states as such. The reasons are very obvious. What they actually visualize is that government, central government or the state government in the Indian overall infrastructure, they basically have a limitation in terms of looking individually to each and every particular sector concerned. So the individual sector required individual treatment. There, a body which is efficient enough, with a regulatory framework, they can only actually do justice in terms of the requirements of that particular sector, and more necessarily a question of tariff determination, which I have talked about some time back, saying that one of the bulk work of these existing regulators, they are actually involved with respect to tariff determination. What should be the price at which people they are going to actually buy that particular service? Next slide. So the act was enacted in 2008. It created an airport economic regulatory authority, and the body actually consists of a chairperson and 2 members to be appointed by the central government. Members should have knowledge and experience in aviation, economics, law, commerce, consumer affairs, as such. Now, interesting enough, it has been a blend in terms of. It has been a blend in terms of both the judicial body, because end of it, ERA is a body where disputes are going to come. So unless you as the chairperson or any of the member don't have any idea in terms of how to give orders, right? How to write down the different types of intermittent applications, you might not reach up the requirement of the particular body. So obviously there has to be a judicial mind in the context of the chairperson, and the experts are the persons who basically come from aviation, engineering, law, all the other respective areas, because there are a lot of technical issues that can come up in the context of airline sector. So it's a mixed package in terms of who are supposed to be the members of the Airport Economic Regulatory Authority.